Hey everybody, so I'm back this week with discussion board four, looking at crime and drugs and policy, also deterrence. So this article, as well as the book, had some good information that I was actually interested in reading further on because we deal on a daily basis in our jobs and in our communities, seeing certain problems that arise and are very frequent in our communities or we deal with on our jobs, and there seems to be no solution. Usually there is a consequence, for every action there's a consequence, but usually it's for that specific consequence, that specific time that it happened. Um, Oftentimes there are not things done that are going to combat the full picture. What is going on? What caused that person to do it? And I think as CJ professionals and as scholars in CJ, uh, we could spend time looking into that, saying, okay, why is it that this person decided to do that? What caused somebody to get hooked on drugs? What caused somebody, as the article is talking about with drunk driving, what caused that person to start drinking and driving? And how can we look at those things and say, hey, uh, what's it going to take to keep them from doing it? Not necessarily this time that they got caught, but chances are, if a person is drinking and then they get in their car, most likely they've done it before. And this time it was just more than they could handle or without getting caught. So those type of things. So I want to do it a little different and start with the article and kind of tie in a lot of what the reading was saying in the book. Um, if I had a hammer, I would not use it to control drunk driving. So essentially, this is talking about tools and how we can use certain tools uh, to predict certain things, such as alcohol use and recidivism, um, in that area, using those predictive tools to respond to this drinking that's happening and people getting in the cars, and it becomes an ongoing problem. So pretty much looking at how much attention is placed into that, and then the tools that are given to that area and the resources that are available, what is their effectiveness? Currently, the article was stating that there are tools, but most of the time it is for a specific issue or a specific occurrence that happens. A person gets caught drinking. First thing they're going to look at is their blood alcohol content. They're going to look at how fast the person was going. They're going to look at all these different factors for this specific incident and not say, let's look at this person's history or let's look into what the risk is that the next time he's not going to do this. Because, I mean, they get caught, they go to jail, or they pay a fine, or whatever it may be. What's causing what are the things that are causing them to do it? Because most likely when they go back home, they get out of jail and that they go back home, those problems are still going to be there. I think as professionals, it's a hard task for us because there are so many different factors that a person can face, and there are so many different theories. So if you look at like we're talking about in Dr. Sims class, the labeling theory, um, the origin of that, the I think it was it Howard Becker? It might not have been Howard Becker. Whoever it was that was talking about the outsiders and what society deems as bad, what society deems as illegal, what society deems as immoral. Those are usually the things that we look at to say very bad. No, no, no. But in reality, there are still things, there's a reason that person chose to do that. There's a reason, and there is not an abundance of tools that say, let's screen this person and see what it is and what's the risk that they're going to do this again. Maybe this is a one-time thing, or maybe this is something that they're going to do this all the time. They've done this all the time. I know in juvenile justice, we have a lot of screenings that kids have to go through to say, what are those risks? Where are the needs? And how do we take both the risk and the needs and respond to it? How do we take it and make sure that the child does not endure the same thing, or we teach them how to combat those different obstacles that they face on a daily basis. Back to the article, because I had nothing to do with it, but back to the article. Just kind of go through. I had a few things highlighted. Let's see. the tools that are used. So there are tools, but as the article is stating, when you have a person who um, you have a carpenter, a an electrician, they can't necessarily use the same tools to work on their job. An electrician can't use a hammer to say that this wire is not going to be tight and it's going to come, it's going to come loose in 2 weeks. Or the carpenter can't say, hey, here's this thing, I don't know what it's called, but here's this machine that looks at um, if there's power in a certain source. They're not looking at that. So you kind of have to use the correct tool in the correct situation. Another thing, because I just saw it, it was one of the things I had. Predictive tools should be developed by focusing on the causes of the problem. I think there's a lot of attention on it's bad things, the illegal things, and we don't necessarily place attention on putting resources in place to replace them. We may look at what causes it, but I don't think there's a lot of attention placed on what can we put as an alternative to this. So take drunk drivers, take people who do drugs. What can we offer as an incentive, or not necessarily an incentive, but what could we use for them to have fun, for them to whatever they're getting from it? What can we do to make sure that they don't result back to going, back to drinking and then driving or whatever? Which the article, or not the article, the book talks about general deterrence, and it speaks on how there are certain things that you can do. So you do have like the general deterrence, or well, we spoke about general deterrence, and then there's specific deterrence that you talk at a certain issue or talking a certain thing, and people see it and say, "Okay, I can't do that." Or on the broad stroke, the general that Bob got put in jail last week, so I'm not going to necessarily do that. And we know that there are parameters in place to make sure that people are not necessarily prosecuted, but they're held responsible. And I think policy, as far as policy is concerned, it's very important that we look into the long term as well as the most effective, not necessarily just get a solution in place, because by doing that, you're not really resolving anything. Let's look at the people that are enforcing the laws, or um, teaching laws, whatever you have. There has to be education in those areas, and I think the PowerPoint was talking about the same thing with education of certain professionals and making sure that they're aware of what's going on, and they're aware of not necessarily just that one time. I just finished basic training with juvenile justice. In a matter of a few weeks, a lot of the things that I learned are not going to be, I'm not going to remember it, because it's going to slip my mind, and there's going to be something new that replaces it. But if you continue to say, okay, how can we take this? And the same thing with deterring people. You may have a crime, selling drugs or whatever, and you get people in that neighborhood, and you lock them up, or you have resources in place to prevent them from selling. But if it's not continued, it's only a matter of time before they say, okay, they're not here in this area anymore. They're not policing us. We can get away. Let's try it again. Let's do it again. So I think that's very important to look at as well. What is something else that I was going to point out, because I am running out of time? Okay, last thing. That when we're looking at crime and we're looking at certain things, even drugs, that there needs to be these predictive tools that, like the article was talking about, they need to be focused more, and not necessarily say there's a punishment, but as opposed to punishment, let's look at solution. As opposed to, um, you have to hold people responsible, yes, but you also have to show them that, hey, as for us to hold you responsible, we have to help you. We have to guide you. We have to give you some supervision, and not necessarily letting them do it by themselves. So I think that's another important thing too. If there's anything I missed, sorry. And I will put some notes on there as well as some of the other takeaways that I got from the article, as well as some of the other takeaways I got from the book. But otherwise, you all have a great day, night, whenever it is that you're viewing this. All right.